part 2. So yeah, he ended up running it like 5 or 6 times. And he was just a doll. He was super nice. So anyway, that was pretty much my experience of the day, because at that point I was done. Because it was like 4:30 and we weren't going to get the CT scan in there on the same day. We knew we were going to have to reschedule that. And then I was going to have some follow-up questions with the caseworker. So really the only truly horrifying part of the day was the psychologist. And she was something else. She really was. She was unbelievably disrespectful. The check-in guy at the electrocardiogram and the sort of awkward exchange with the ultrasound or the x-ray tech, you know, they were uncomfortable, and I would love it if we lived in a world where people weren't uncomfortable around others who were different from them. But that's just not the reality of the situation, and those exchanges could have definitely been way worse. And I've gotten desensitized to that, you know, like a lot of people don't, you know, we're not acculturated to understand how to treat trans people with respect. We erase trans people from our culture. We don't talk about the proper words or language or frameworks or ways to think about gender nonconforming folks. And that's just reality. And while everyone is responsible for deconstructing their own internalized homophobia and transphobia, and everyone is responsible for going out in the world and educating themselves and being proactive, that's also hard for folks to realize to do. You know, every day I'm realizing, you know, I should probably be putting a lot more effort into learning sign language. It's kind of ableist of me that I don't know sign language and just sort of assume that it's something I don't need. Why? Because I don't value deaf people? I don't know. I have to explore that internally. You know, I have to think about why that is and go on a little adventure hunt, or when I find something inside of me that is racist or xenophobic, or, you know, any of the other countless isms. And I, of course, have my own internalized homophobia and transphobia that I have to work on. Nobody escapes their acculturation, right? And so I hold that in the back of my mind, too, and I really do try to meet people where they're at, and I really do try to meet people with compassion and understanding. But at the same time, it is still everyone's responsibility to do their own work and try to go out and understand what that work is, and not to expect other people to not only tell you what your work is, but then do it for you and also do the work of educating you. But obviously, the more privileged you are, the more insulated you are from the fact that that work even exists for you, right? So I do try to be mindful of that. But that was my experience. That was my day. I have the follow-up CT scan this Friday. I still haven't heard any follow-up. I haven't received a follow-up call yet from the caseworker. Maybe she decided she didn't need to ask me more questions. I don't know. Or maybe she figures she'll ask later because the CT scan isn't in. Who knows? One step at a time. I did have a CT scan back in February. Because that was like 3 months after I had my baby. I had my second baby in November of 2017. And this was like the first real period I had since the baby. And I bled a lot, like a really, really lot, like a scary amount of blood. Like I remember I took a bath and I'd been in the bath for like 30 minutes and like the water was like red. And I was like, this has never happened before. And I was really freaked out. So I went to the emergency room and they looked me over really thoroughly, and, you know, they couldn't find any reason. I was fine. I wasn't anemic. I didn't have like a low blood count. So I don't know. Maybe it was clearly just like a fluke. Clearly it was a fluke that wasn't harmful to my body, but it definitely was scary. Anyway, the point is they took a CAT scan at that point. And I guess I have a cyst in my right kidney. And they told me that cysts are really common. Like, I was like, what? I have a fucking cyst in my kidney and nobody told me? The surgeon was the one who told me this. And he was like, you know, chill out. Kidneys get cysts all the time. Which I didn't fucking know. But and it's so irrelevant and so common that that's why nobody even bothered to tell me that it was there. I guess folks get cysts in their kidneys that burst and rupture and your body reabsorbs it and it doesn't cause you any pain and they're sterile on the inside, so there's not like a risk of infection or disease or anything like that. So you learn something new every day. My right kidney has a 2.2, so almost an inch in diameter, which sounded gigantic to me, but apparently it's nothing to be concerned about, cyst in my right kidney. And normally they like to give your left kidney because both of your kidneys connect, I guess, to the same artery or vein, which is located on the right side of your body. So the right kidney has a smaller ventricle that connects to it because it doesn't need to be as long, and the left one has a really long one. So they prefer to take your left one because it's got this longer, ventricle vessel, whatever. It gives them a little bit more wiggle room in terms of putting it into the recipient's body, but they can take either one. And if you happen to have a cyst in either kidney that's larger than a centimeter, that's the kidney they take, because that's their policy or whatnot. So even though they would normally take the left one, in my case they would likely take the right because I've got this cyst on the right side. Not that that impacts its functionality or its health or anything like that, but still, if there's anything that could be considered a defect in any one of your kidneys, that's the one that they remove from you, and they leave you with the one that they consider higher quality or whatever. Even though it's very likely that this kidney that I have, this cyst that I have going on in this kidney is going to burst at some point and be reabsorbed, and it's all fine and dandy. That's still their policy. So anyway, the point to me telling you that is that CT scan back in February looked really good. There was nothing to be concerned about. Even if that cyst in my kidney grows, it doesn't matter. It's still a good kidney. It's still functional. It would still be worth donating and giving to somebody else. So based on the blood results that I had, which looked good, minus the cholesterol triglycerides thing, based on the CT scan in February, which looks good, obviously we're still going to do another one on Friday anyway, just to make sure that things are still all good in there. And based on the x-ray, which looked really good, and the electrocardiogram, which looked really good, it is very likely that I will be donating a kidney in December, January, that time frame in between my 2 school semesters. So we'll see what ends up happening. But that is my very long blah blah about my September 4th appointment. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments, you can feel free to mark them below. You can also send me a message or a private message if you want to, if you have a question that you don't feel comfortable making public. I certainly understand that, and I'm happy to answer folks' questions one-on-one, and I'm happy to engage in a dialogue one-on-one. I'm especially happy to do that if you're another queer person who's undergoing this journey, and I'm also especially happy to do that if you're a medical professional, because I do frequently field questions from medical professionals who, very nobly want to be more proactive. They have realized that they have work to do. They want to do that work, and they realize... knocked the phone over. They realize the best way to do that is to go directly to the source and educate themselves about the different lived experiences of others. So that's great. And if that's you, feel free to shoot me a DM. Alrighty, have a great rest of your night, and I will talk to you again about how that Friday CAT scan goes and what the next steps are.